Welcome into the JAKIB Media Halftime Show, where the Eagles right now are leading the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle 10-3. And a great start to that game for the Eagles as they get that 15-play, 75-yard drive lasting 8 minutes and 29 seconds, marching them down the field to open up the game with Jalen rolling to his left and punching it in for the game's first and, to this point, only touchdown. Once again, Eagles are in the lead 10-3, a much-needed scene for a lot of Eagles fans. The Eagles do have this lead at the half, and unfortunately, a lot left to be desired after that. Kayla, Santiago here on the Halftime Show, and Bill Colarulo, Legal Hands to the Face podcast, as well as the Philly Sports Power Hour. John McMullen will be joining us momentarily at the half. I'm your host, Marc Farzetta. First off, very excited about what I saw in the first two possessions for the Eagles, both offensively and defensively. Offense, you see them out there in the 15-play drive. They're able to run the football. They're able to convert third downs. They're able to cash it in for 7 points by knock that ball into the end zone. Defensively speaking, you also see them aggressive at the line of scrimmage, little press coverage involved. You see Josh Sweat getting a sack as well. I am liking what I was seeing in that first quarter. Bill, unfortunately, the rest of the way, a little bit left to be desired, as I mentioned.
Yeah, they did some of the things we wanted to see. First of all, on the defensive side of the ball, Matt Patricia changed some things up. We saw some interesting lineups with a 5-man front, moving Hassan Reddick inside. I didn't necessarily agree with a third down play where they had Reddick drop into coverage. I'd like to see our best pass rusher try to get after the quarterback. But I like that they were trying different things. And that first drive was great. Ran the ball 10 times on a 15-play drive. But since then, they really haven't been able to get a lot of rhythm on offense. I know they got into the red zone. They weren't able to convert. Another issue in the red zone there. But listen, this Seahawks team is not a good football team. And the fact that this is a 10-3 game, I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, Kayla, where are you at right now? We saw them really establish things well with that first drive, then a couple of 3-and-outs by both teams, and then the Eagles got things going again, unfortunately stalled and had to wait for the field goal, or settle for the field goal, rather. What are your takeaways so far from the first half?
I want to see a little bit more of that we saw in the first drive. I feel like there was a lot of confidence coming out. We said, okay, is this what we're going to see the entire first half? And it didn't end up being that way. I just get a little bit confused on the play calling, and I feel like it's been this way throughout the entire season. You're trying to get a 3rd and 6, and you're driving up the middle with DeAndre Swift. That's not going to necessarily work. There's not a lot of holes that are opening. So it's one of those things, once again, when they need 6-7 yards, that they're only either throwing those little slants that are a gain of 3 or running the ball up, which could be 3 yards. So the play calling, I would like to see a little bit more confidence in that like we saw in the opening drive.
We'll see if they develop that even further. Now let's go to our NFL insider, Mr. John McMullen himself, and also co-host of Birds 365 right here on the JAKIB Media Sports Channel. John, what jumped out to you about that first half as far as the defensive play calling and a little bit of creativity in that first drive of the game for the Eagles?
First thing that stands out, tremendous game plan by Matt Patricia to play a really bad offense. So that really helped the Eagles out from that perspective. But certainly, yeah. And I said, it's baked in. This defense is going to be better over the final month of the season. They're playing Drew Lock tonight. They get to play Tommy Cutlets a couple times. So it's going to get better. It's just a question of how they finish off and how they finish this game. So I thought you had 2 impressive drives in the first half from the offense. Then things started to bog down a little bit. Disappointing they couldn't punch the second one in because Jason Kelsey, the false start, really set them back there. Jason's got to know better. He really tried to push that ball forward. So, he was trying to steal a little bit too much space. Got to understand that situation a little bit better. But, Jalen Hurts is people should be excited because they're running the football. DeAndre Swift 10 times, Kenny Gainwell 5 times. Jalen did not look good throwing the football in the second quarter. All in all, I would say it's a little bit disappointing that they're only up 10-3 at the half, considering how much they dominated, certainly that first quarter.
And, John, they haven't stuck with the run all season long, but do you think in the second half, with Jalen possibly having the flu right now, being a little bit sick, that they try to stick with the run throughout this game? You just alluded to it a moment ago. DeAndre Swift has double digits in carries, which we haven't seen since week 2 in the first half of action. So do you want to see that more in the second half, or do you think they try to go to the passing game and get more confidence in Hurts?
Well, I think it's got to be more effective. As it comes down, they're averaging, both DeAndre and Kenny are averaging 3.6 yards per carry, so it got worse. That first drive was pretty impressive, but That's still not good enough. They got to run the ball more effectively. At this particular, if Jalen is ailing to that degree, they might have to, but you'd like to get certainly the passing game going. Devontae Smith really only had that 15-yard reception. He had one for loss, so they haven't gotten him involved. They've targeted Dallas Goedert a lot, but only 2 receptions and 5 targets in AJ. So they got to be more effective offensively, and they got to be able to finish things. And it's funny to say that because they had 2 really good drives, and I think if they punched the second one in, we'd be feeling a lot better. But you saw the end of the half was ugly from both teams' perspective. They're trying to extend it. They're trying to be aggressive, and neither side could get anything going offensively late in the second quarter. So maybe some tempo. I'd like to see that from the Eagles. That tends to get them going. Defensively, you just got to stay the course because Seattle's really up against it with Drew Lock at quarterback. So running game's not doing much for him, and he's not going to be able to get the ball even to those receivers. You saw DK Metcalf only 1 reception. I would say the one thing, not tongue-in-cheek, I liked about Matt Patricia, you saw a bunch of different looks, guys getting snaps, more athleticism on the field, a lot of 3 safety looks. Sidney Brown, I thought Kayla Ringo played pretty well. Again, he's not being tested because you don't have the real big threat from the quarterback perspective on the other side, but you can only play who's in front of you, and the defense is doing a pretty good job. They only gave up 90 yards in that first half.
Yeah, John, 10-3, Seattle is not a good football team. I'm not happy at all after seeing what I saw in the first half, but I do agree at least Matt Patricia tried some different things on the defensive side of the ball. You saw Patrick Johnson, I think, at his first defensive snaps. He had Hassan Reddick at D tackle at one point, dropping Hassan Reddick in coverage. But the one positive, you mentioned Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo. Liked what I saw out of the 2 young guys. What did you think you saw? Were they battling out there? They look like they're playing better than what we were getting from some of the other guys earlier in the season?
Yeah, Sidney was really active. He had 5 tackles, leads the team in tackles. I thought, Keely Ringo had a big hit. I thought you saw Bradley Roby on that Metcalf catch. Typically, that's going to be a first down. That's such a big receiver, and he was able to get a good tackle there. As you mentioned with Reddick, moving him around, you're trying to throw a curveball. I know people get upset when they drop him in coverage, but that's a zone blitz. That's what you do. You're trying to fool the quarterback, and maybe he throws it right into the coverage. So you got to throw those curveballs every once in a while. I like that Matt did that. He understands that perspective. Not a lot of big plays, but they didn't need him, and that's all you have to do against this team because they're very limited offensively, and as long as the Eagles stay the course there, might not be the prettiest win, but they should be able to get to the finish line.
Yeah, I'll certainly take a win, as I know most Eagles fans will on a night like tonight. John McMullen, co-host of Birds 365. Thanks so much for joining us, my friend. We'll see you on the postgame show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. John McMullen joining us right there, co-host of Birds 365, our NFL insider right here for JAKIB Sports. As far as something I need to see in this second half, Jalen Hurts work on that accuracy a little bit. It certainly started to go a little bit astray there in that second quarter. But when the Eagles have been able to drive the ball, we're talking about a 15-play drive, we're talking about a 16-play drive, and need to be able to continue to be able to punch that ball in the end zone when it comes to their red zone production. Kayla, one thing you want to see in the second half?
I would like to see Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith get more involved. Listen, I don't want them throwing the ball all game long. That's not what I want. I do want them to run the ball like they did on that first drive, but mix it up a little bit. Stop with these screen passes that just are not working. I don't know what it is. They keep on trying in it, and it's just not in their favor right now. I think you need to get those guys more involved. You mentioned Jalen Hurts in the second quarter, just not accurate in terms of throwing. He's got to do better at that in the second half, and I don't want to hear that, oh, they might win, it might not be pretty. Really going to worry about this Eagles team if it's not a pretty win because they're playing the Drew Lock Seahawks.
Yeah, how about that? Bill, what do you need to see in the second half?
We need to see the Philadelphia Eagles play like a Super Bowl contending team. They're playing the Seattle Seahawks, the 28th worst defense in the NFL. You're playing against Drew Lock and a bad offense. Enough is enough. 10-3 at the half. The offense looks disjointed at times. The Eagles are giving up too many long third down conversions. I want to see this team come out in the second half and put everything together. And like Kayla said, if not, we're going to be up here at postgame, whether they win or lose, pounding our fists on the table because they should be dominating this team. Drew Lock is their starting quarterback. It's frustrating to watch this team right now.
I will say this. They have 3 very good wide receivers out there in Seattle, and there's a banged-up secondary here in Philadelphia. I like what I'm seeing from Sidney Brown, like what I'm seeing for the most part from Keely Ringo, James Bradbury, a little bit. But this offense, when it comes to this Philadelphia Eagles beating up on that defense of Seattle, it shouldn't be a close game right now.
Not at all.
And no sacks. You did say Josh Trent. That was a tackle for loss.
Yeah, it was a TFL. Thank you. Yes.
0 sacks on Drew Lock. No turnovers again.
He's slippery.
Not 1 of 2 in the red zone. I mean, you got to be better. If we are Super Bowl contenders, this isn't going to cut it, man.
Yeah, no, this does not give you the boost that you need for your confidence as far as them getting back on track. As far as winning, I still think they're going to win the football game. As far as the Red Sea parting and all of a sudden it looked like a miracle's about to happen with the Philadelphia Eagles, not quite there just yet. We'll be back with the post-game show. Mike Missinelli, Seth Joyner joins the show as well. We'll be back with the Pod Hockey post-game show after hopefully what will be an Eagles victory. See you then.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Some say courage is something you're born with. Others say courage is something you find. In every generation throughout history, courage has been celebrated, sought after, needed. It holds the potential for a life of impact. But what if courage isn't just something you hope for or stumble upon? What if courage is something that can be shaped at a place that inspires you, where leaders invest in you, your community believes in you, and your life becomes something bigger than it could ever be alone?
EAGLES, Eagles.